It's probably a little misleading to think of France as a single central nation in the 1400s. Nationalism as an idea is one that would take hold more in the coming centuries, but during the Hundred Years' War, it was really a collection of provinces and regions bound by a common culture. And each of these provinces and regions had their own customs and had their own identity and often had their own goals. So the people of Auvergne really thought of themselves as the people of Auvergne, and the same for the people of Foch and Poitiers and Anjou and Orleans. These regions had their own identity, and as a result often came in conflict with each other, even as the larger conflict of the Hundred Years' War was going on, which is exactly what was happening in 1415 as Henry V was moving through Normandy and turning to take Paris. The Orleanists, who backed the young Dauphin Charles VII, found themselves in a massive conflict with the very popular and very strong Duke of Burgundy. And this really set the stage for Henry to have free reign and an opportunity to push north into Calais and then turn south and open up this entire region as English territory. And it's also why, interestingly, when he did eventually arrive and take Paris, he took it not from the French, but from Burgundy. I'm Sean Sands from GamersWithJobs.com, and this is my Let's Learn of Europa Universalis IV. This is episode 2, and we're doing an idea which is, an experiment. We're going to learn the game itself. I'm going to take the opportunity here to kind of walk new players through the actual systems and mechanics. But also I want to put it in the historical context. And in fact, you see here somewhat a representation in 1444 of what I'm talking about with France. France is fractured, and Auvergne is here, and Armagnac is here. Armagnac, a perennial thorn in France's side. Provence has Maine and Anjou over here. These are all vassals of France, and they all will come to the call when war is waged, but they aren't specifically French yet. Before we get started, there's two things I want to mention very, very briefly. First, a couple of corrections from the first episode, and I imagine we'll have these periodically. I identified Charles VII's son as Louis IX. I got my Roman numerals backwards. He's Louis XI. And also, I believe when I was discussing the siege of Orleans and Joan of Arc breaking the siege, implied that Henry V was still kicking around at the time. He was not. Henry V died in 1422, and it was really John, Duke of Bedford, Henry's brother, who was regent at that time, as Henry VI was still very young and not able to take the throne. That brings up two really good points. One, I am not a historian. So this is an exploration for me as much as for all of you, hopefully. I am taking this opportunity to learn this information as well. So let's think of it as a joint venture. Second, and you may have noticed this, I am not French, and I do not know how to pronounce French things very well. So that's going to be funny many times, I imagine. Hopefully for you, as I mangle my way through French regions and French names. It's just something we'll have to deal with as we actually kick off this round in this episode and get going with the game. So with that, let's play. So in the last episode, we spent a lot of time looking at the screen and talking through the history without ever clicking the pause button so that we can actually start time and see something happen. This episode, we will be starting time. We will take our army here and we will go crush the English. I want to walk you first through essentially my pre-game checklist of a kind. There's a few things you always want to do before you actually kick time underway. It's just to understand your position and what your opportunities are. One of the first things I like to do is just check what missions I have available, because often I can take a mission very early on, and often these rewards are very beneficial and definitely worth getting right from the start. So we have a couple of choices. These are not randomly generated, but contextually generated missions, either to improve our prestige or form an alliance with Aragon. Aragon is down here next to Castile, or drive the English from France, which means we would have to drive them entirely from the French region, reclaim all the English holdings in France. We can do that here in Gascony and Libourne, in Aquitaine. We can do that here with Normandy and Co. Calais is going to be a problem. We probably won't be able to actually take Calais in this round of war, and we'll have to take it later. The main reason for that is because, as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of conflict, very back and forth between Burgundy and France. Burgundy held Paris for a very long time as Charles VII was, still young and not able to take the crown. It was Burgundy who owned Paris when Henry V came in and took it from them. So we can't really get access to their lands very easily to go siege up Calais. So we're not going to take that one. I'm not interested right away with forming the alliance with Aragon, partly because I want to see what Castile does. Castile is going to be very interested in forming the nation of Spain, which means incorporating Aragon's lands. They can do that militarily or diplomatically. Having a alliance with Aragon, should Castile choose to approach this militaristically, would put us in a second war with another major power. I'm not interested in doing that. So we're going to improve our prestige, which gives us a really, really good benefit of gaining 1 stability. I'll talk more about both those concepts as we move along. So we're going to take that mission. This is our prestige up here. You win prestige by winning battles and by winning wars. Not sure if this is enough to get us to 50, but it's, we'll see. And it's something we want to do anyway. Over here, we covered this a little bit last time. We know that Charles is a 4-2-4. We know that these numbers here are tied to these numbers up here. And in fact, you gain each of these powers a certain amount each month. That base for a European power like us is 3 per month. Added to that is the skill of the king. So 4 plus the base 3 means we'll get a monthly increase of 7 per month. And these, as I said, these are sort of the keys to technology and buildings and all kinds of stuff. So we want to see these go up as fast as we can. Another way you can increase those is by having advisors. We'll probably get an, I don't know, I'm actually going to look here. So an advisor is essentially an additional bonus. You get a +1, +2, or +3 to the administrative power. So let's, I don't actually like either of these guys. Let's look at, let's look at this guy. So this is an administrative advisor. We know Charles has a 4. We know we have a base of 3, so we're currently getting 7. But I want to get this guy, which will increase my national tax modifier by 5%. So that's the amount of tax I bring in monthly will increase slightly. But he also gives a +1 to the administrative skill. So this 7, when I click him, is now +8. And in fact, by doing that, I got a little bonus opportunity. The thing is he costs money each month. This guy is going to cost 1 ducat per month. So if you noticed a moment ago, I was making 3.5 ducats per month. Now that I have to pay Francois de Bercy a ducat a month, I'm only getting 2.7. You can see that as their skill goes up, +1, +2, +3, it can't be greater than +3, so too does their monthly cost. In fact, at this point, we can't afford these more fantastic +2 and +3 advisors. I'm just going to get the 1 for now because I like making some money, and I do want to focus on administrative power because some of the early technologies are really, really beneficial from the administrative side of things. I'm going to skip economy and trade right now. I know it's fine. I know that I have a merchant here in the Bordeaux region, and I know I have a merchant over here in the Genoa region who is pushing some trade to Bordeaux. It's a complicated idea. We'll talk about that more later. The only other thing I want to kind of touch on right now is military. We have 4 leaders, and they're really, really good leaders. The problem is that we can only support 1 leader. So for each extra leader over that amount, we lose military power, and you can see that here. So doing some simple math, we know we have a base of 3 per month, so military power first and foremost is 3 per month. We know we have Charles VII adds 4 to that, so we get 7 per month, but we have 3 extra leaders, so 7 minus 3 equals 4 per month. And what we're going to do is we're just going to fire some of these guys, because honestly, don't need them. I'm going to keep 1. I'm going to put him in charge of our main fighting force here. I just selected the stack, pull down leader, add him in, and now he adds a lot of value. Once we get into the battle, I'll talk through what that value actually looks like, but just know that this is a very strong leader. With that, I believe we are ready to actually dive in and go blow up England. So I'm going to bump this up to 2, and we're going to unpause. And so the first thing I want to do is take my army here. You can see that all my vassals are organizing their army to go do some stuff. And it's important to note that the vassals you do not control directly. You actually have they're operated through an AI, and they will go fight for you and beat your enemies and do good things. But it actually can be tricky at times having this massive army that goes off and does its own thing when what you really want to do is have it go down here and do this thing. It happens pretty frequently. It's a part of the game. We'll see it probably not here so much because we can just take our army, right click on a region and go eliminate this force. So this is a little early actually. Versus what actually happened. It wasn't until almost 1449 that Charles VII massed this army and took it into the north of France to rid the English once and for all. But no time like the present for us. So let's just go do it. And once he's there, we will be in battle. And I'll cover that a little bit. So we find ourselves in battle. This is the Battle of Normandy. And here's where all the information about the battle actually is. Battles are mainly determined by a dice roll. Each side rolls a dice, I believe, from 0 to 9. And that roll essentially tells how much damage you will give and how much you will receive. So a 9 versus an 8 means we're both probably going to inflict pretty heavy damage on each other. Now you notice here I have this 4. This goes directly to why you want a leader. There are 3 phases of battle. There's the fire phase, there's the shock phase. I forget the name of the last phase, but let's see, we'll see it down here in a second. In this phase, which is the fire phase, my general has a fire of 4, which means my roll will automatically have a 4 added to it in this phase, unless it's canceled out by the other leader on the other side. They have no leader, so it's not. But let's say they had a leader who also had a 4, we would just see the 8 and 9 because the 4s would cancel each other out. You'll see that more later on. What's over here is discipline, morale, and tactics. Tactics is just sort of a representation of technological advancement. It'll go up on its own. Morale is what will actually keep your guys fighting on the front lines. The higher your morale, the more you're going to be able to stand and be successful in battle. We start with a base morale of 2.7, which is larger than the base morale of England. There's a lot of things that could be impacting that, and in fact we see it's been 100 years war, so they have heavy war exhaustion, which means they get a little less morale. Discipline is how much damage you're going to do to each other, and we're pretty even. So we're going to slow this down, and you can just watch these numbers roll as we go, and then see how it's represented in the conflict and the injuries on each side. And let's take a look. Ooh, so this is the shock phase again. My general has a shock of 4. They have no leader. So when I roll an 8, what I'm really rolling is a 12. His 7 is just a plain old 7. So we saw these numbers that are popping up is how many men they are losing in each of those battles at that moment. So he just lost like 1,700 men. Ooh, and that's painful. And in fact, I won. Yay! That's exciting. Now, a couple of things you may want to notice here. So we just won that, which is great. We still actually have to siege up the land. We have to, just because we won the battle doesn't mean Normandy flips to us. We will have to either leave this army here, which I can tell you in advance we are not going to do, or we can detach essentially a garrison to execute the siege. You might also notice that that +2 we had a moment ago is now a monthly balance of -4, because this 30 stack, while we won the battle, has it got whittled down a bit. So we still have the actual stack of 30 regiments, but the manpower within it is trimmed down. So we are going to have to replenish that out of our manpower. You can see here we have a maximum of 32,000, and we will be reinforcing our armies. We need 3,000 men to do that. So that 30 stack, we didn't lose those regiments. They will refill. We don't have to go build 4 new regiments, but we will have to resupply them with the manpower, and that costs a lot of money. And in fact, one of the biggest drains on your economy will be following battles, particularly heavy battles where you've lost a lot of men and you have to resupply your army. That's a quick way to really sap your economy. But this will happen pretty quickly. It'll take about 4 months to get this stack back up to 30. I'm going to hit the D key here. And what I've done is basically split up my army a little bit. I'm going to leave these 3,000 men to continue the siege of Normandy. I'm going to drop another 3,000 men, send them over here to Co. And then I'm going to take my main fighting force of 20-something regiments to come down and help support my vassals in Gascony to drive out the remaining English army. This army does have a leader, so we will have a little bit more of a conflict there, but it should still be a victory for us. So we're going to go ahead and get time moving again. You can see up here that it is clicking away the days, and our 20,000 will come down here and hopefully help support the Auvergne and Bourbonnais army, who appears to be losing to the English in the province of Armagnac. And in fact, as you can see here, the morale of the two armies. My vassals are not brilliant strategists. Hopefully, I will be a little bit better. And it takes time. Obviously, you can actually see as you hover over that this will arrive in Poitou on December 26th. And from there, it'll move slowly to Armagnac. The battle may be over before we ever get to that. Now, these flags are basically your to-do list. As things come up that you can do, and I've paused the game by pressing the space key, the game will check in with you periodically and let you know, hey, here's some things you might want to focus on, or things you need to know. National decision is available. Remember, we hired this administrative supporter with the +1 and who adds the tax modifier. That actually allowed us to fill the requirements of having passing the Liquor Act. There are a whole bunch of these. As you complete various goals or various items in the game, these will unlock. You can see this one has a little green checkbox, meaning I can choose to do this. If I pass this, I will get even more money in taxes, but it'll cost more to keep my nation stable. Plus, I'll lose some of those precious 50 administrative power points that I've been saving up. But this is a great example of why you're saving them up in the first place. So I'm actually going to click this, and now France has the Liquor Act, which means that we're charging people to get drunk. And that's okay. I mean, it's not great, but it's okay. I see I have an alliance offer from Hungary. I'm going to right-click that because I'm here and Hungary's here, and I don't care about all this yet. So, no. Same from Venice. It's a little closer, but an alliance with Venice is tricky because Austria has a lot of good reasons to come invade Venice. Well, these provinces here in Brescia and Treviso and Istria are actually in the Holy Roman Empire. The capital of Venezia is not, and therefore Venice is a nation not considered in the Holy Roman Empire, while most of its holdings are considered lands that should be. So Austria has some pretty good reasons, Austria being the Holy Roman Emperor, Frederick III, to go invade Venice. And I don't want to worry about Austria yet. So we're going to say no to that too. And we're going to unpause and hopefully go fight this army, because I could use the prestige. It's going to be close. I don't know. Now the vassals seem to be handling things pretty well. They may take care of this before I can ever arrive. I will arrive on January 11th, just to sort of maybe close out the last day of the battle. No, did not. So it looks like he's going to burn. Maybe I'll be able to catch him there. And yes, I will. Now, before I show up, you'll notice there's this little, can't see that, a little lock down here. You can see their morale is completely gone. This is a broken fighting force. If I should show up while this lock is still in place, meaning, and what that means is this army is so demoralized it can't even march, it can't move, it's stuck here. There won't be a battle at all. I will just destroy the army. So there's a good chance that I'm going to appear in this area here in Foch, and this army is just going to disappear. I suspect that's what's about to happen, and yup, that is exactly what happened. Completely eliminated that army. So I'm going to take my guys. I'm going to take them here to Gascony. I'm going to detach another one of those sieges, and then I'm going to take the rest of my main force and get it back into a safe supply range. Alliance offer from Switzerland. Not right now. Talk more about diplomacy in a little bit here. Oh, here's Aragon again. What's Spain? Okay, so... maybe I will ally Aragon after all. So what I did here is, while this is going on here, I can begin to concentrate on some of the other things that I want to do. For example, I am fighting a battle that I did not know about. Those sneaky English took their 34 ships and moved troops from Cornwall into Normandy. So I'm going to take my 3,000 men who were sieging Co, going to abandon that siege to support the battle in Normandy. Now, here's an interesting item. We don't have leaders on either side. Remember, our leader is attached to this army down here. So this fight is happening without leaders on either side. But England is still in a bad position. So we each rolled 9s, for example, in this roll, which is probably pretty good. But what happened is, since they invaded from sea, they actually take a penalty for, well, a river crossing or a landing on a beach penalty, meaning each of their rolls has 2 subtracted from it. So let's see. Not quite as big numbers because much smaller army, but I feel like this is probably going to go okay. The support here is coming in on the 6th. We've got okay morale. We would probably lose this battle if we weren't getting supported. Ugh, this is the worst. There's nothing just more disappointing than the other side rolling an 8 and you just roll a 0. It's just painful. So we'll see how this turns out. As you can see, the morale is starting to swing now that I've reinforced with my other 3,000 men. We've definitely got the upper hand. Even when we roll terrible numbers like this, we still are in position to probably defeat. Okay, I'm actually going to accept this alliance offer from Aragon, and we'll talk more about that later. So, while that's going on, I'm going to detach this siege down here and have my main force come here to sort of a central location in Berry, where they will hopefully protect from any future sneak attacks. All right. So we did win that, but we are suffering some pretty bad morale, so I'm not... no, I'm going to chase him. We'll give it a try. See if we can crush him like we did the other army earlier. Going to bump us up here. Speed accelerate a little bit. Aragon wants a marriage. Might as well in for a penny, in for a pound. And the battle continues. But this time I will be supported by my dear, dear friends from Provence, and we won. Hooray. So the 100 Years' War is nearly at an end at this point. It will just be a matter of sort of cleaning up periodic small scout forces like that and sieging these lands back down so that we can claim them and add them to the French Empire. We only have 9 ships here. The English Navy is massive by comparison, so they really are going to dominate the sea. If they want to try and sneak more troops in, they're going to have the flexibility to do that. But our army on the ground is just outmatches them completely. So that's a year. That's the first year of our play of the 100 Years' War. We've covered a lot of things here, not as much history in this episode. We'll probably get back to that more in the next episode as we can actually talk about how the 100 Years' War ended and what the results were. But until then, I'm Sean Sands from GamersWithJobs.com. I'll be back with episode 3 very soon.